If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Real Estate Radio San Antonio with Carl and Stan on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Sitting to the left of us is Steve Yndo of Yndo Commercial Real Estate Company. A couple of weeks ago, we spoke of mixed-use properties and how it has grown throughout major cities. Places like the Elan, the mixed-use development near San Antonio College, the Pearl Brewery, and the Quarry are all known for their cohesive mixed-use, all-in-one creative designs. Community development is great for building stronger and more resilient communities going on.
And this was in the New York, we get the New York Times, our paper.
Wall Street Journal.
Oh, Wall Street. We get the Wall Street Journal. And there was a big article in there about 3 weeks ago, just about across the nation, about how the mixed-use development is happening just all over. But it's my pleasure to have Steve Yndo on our show. He's a native of San Antonio. He's graduated from Texas A&M University in 1985. He studied at the San Antonio extension of the National UNAM, University of Mexico, from 1987 to 1990. UNAM.
Yeah.
You're gonna explain. You're gonna tell us what that is.
I'll do my best.
Steve carries 30 years of experience in all phases of commercial, residential, and has spent the last 15 years on urban adaptive reuse and infill development. His past adaptive reuse projects include King William Lofts, the 1114 South St. Mary's live and work conversion, the conversion of the former St. Benedict's Hospital. His new construction projects include the East Quincy Townhomes on the River, the S. Sojo Crossing Townhomes across the river from the Pearl, and Madison Street Garden Homes in the King William. This guy is accomplished. He has also served as the president of both King William Neighborhood Associations and Southtown Urban Main Street Program. He served on the City of San Antonio Downtown Advisory Board, CCIM, and Commercial Division of the San Antonio Board of Realtors, and is currently a local chapters of both the Congress of the New Urbanism and Urban Land Institute. Steve is also an active supporter of our local contemporary arts. Thank you for joining us today, Steve.
Thank you guys for having me.
Wow,
You're welcome.
We need to take a break after that introduction. I mean, Carla's like, with his weather's a little dry mouth there, so saying all that. Well, congratulations. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me.
So, Steve, tell us about what drove you into commercial real estate. I mean, you have a CCIM. That's a big designation. There's not too many people in commercial real estate that have that. CCIM is one of the bigger designations you can have in real estate. I also have Society of Industrial and Office Realtors, which is a much smaller group that's focused more on the user side of real estate, office and industrial users. CCIM is really involved with investment in commercial property, but real heavily investment oriented. But have both of those. And the way I got into the business was I was at A&M and involved in a business program there that sets you up with internships. And I originally went off looking for internships with all the big banks that no longer exist in Houston: Texas Commerce Bank, Republic Bank, et cetera, et cetera. And at that time, I don't know how old most of your listeners are, but we were just getting ready to start to go into the big bust of the mid-'80s. And at that point, the banks were already starting to shut down. I was the last guy in my group of 20 who did not have an internship, and we got a call from a group and a couple of guys 3 or 4 years older than me out of A&M who were working in Austin. I went to work for them, and that was the peak of the boom in Austin, the land flip boom and all that stuff that was going on. And you see that, and of course you want to get in the business. So I got out of A&M and got in the business in May of '85. Joined a group of about 12 or 13 brokers. One guy made a deal, and then there was probably not another deal made for 2 years, 3 years. Oh,
it was a rough go.
How'd you survive?
Mowing lawns.
Okay.
60-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks.
Oh, gosh.
You do what you got to do.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's how I got in the business, and I've been in the business ever since.
Tell me about UNAM.
UNAM is Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, and that's the biggest university system in Mexico. San Antonio is one of the only cities outside of Mexico that has an extension.
at least at the time that I was going. There may be a few more now, but it's located downtown in Hemisphere Park, and it's one of those great things about being downtown. It's one of the best Spanish language programs in town. My family is Spanish. My background is Spanish, but we never spoke growing up. Just that's the way things were back then. And so took classes there. Had Charles Butt as one of my fellow classmates back then. Evening classes, yeah. So it was a great program and a great asset that San Antonio has.
Awesome. Can you speak Spanish for us?
I'll defer that to later.
Okay. Okay. I love it. And I was on the Today Show as I'm getting ready for work one day. I think it was yesterday. They're talking about all the things you can do for the new year, and one of them is speak a new language. So you can get all these tapes instead of watching TV at night. Stan, we could be learning Spanish.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, I love language. I love foreign languages, and I love Spanish. So you've completed many projects. Do you have a favorite accomplishment?
I'd say my favorite, partly because it was my first project, would be the King William Lofts down in King William, and that was an old glass factory building. Used to be the original Samuel's Glass Company way back when.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and one of the I think the thing I like about that the most is that it was a hole in the neighborhood, much the way St. Benedict's was a big hole in the neighborhood down in King William. A relatively abandoned or shuttered warehouse smack in the middle of a historic district and historic homes, and we brought that back into 11 condominium units, so brought 11 new families to the neighborhood. One of those original buyers is now president of the King William Association. So projects like that help to bring new blood into a neighborhood and people that contribute to the community. There's some great people that live there. The project fits in with everything around it, even though it's not a historic home. It's a warehouse, but the scale is right. It feels good. The people are great, and it's just one of those projects that's always going to be, an asset to the community.
Yeah, Steve. We were talking in the green room before we started the show today, and you had made a statement that kind of sticks with me and says that usually when a redevelopment starts or when industry starts, it's the rooftops come or the homes come before the retail does.
That's exactly right.
And as we are going through this, I have a couple of questions here. I'd just like to spend just a minute or two, if we could, on it. And if you're just joining us, you're listening to Real Estate Radio San Antonio with Carl and Stan, and we're here with Steve Yndo. Boy, I do want to say that. Why Yndo? Excuse me. And talking about bringing that back to the community, how that gets started. So I understand that I can visualize it downtown, and this is before we got here that this took place, the project that you're talking about. But there are so many others that you're working on over by the Pearl and there's St. Benedict's and everything. So there's a warehouse which is almost, let's call it what it is, like an eyesore in an area with all these beautiful homes around there. What gets that going that makes that makes that property? Because when you start that, want to make it desirable, that I know it's a vision, but what creates that vision to think that people are going to move down into with these large homes or these bungalows or whatever the thing is to put these condos of smaller space in that area? Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of things. The thing that made the King William Lofts viable was that you had King William, which was at that time, that was the late, mid-90s or so, was one of the really the only really strong near downtown neighborhood. Since then, Lavaca has come back extremely strong, or as strong as King William. East Side is really starting to get some momentum. But at that time, King William was kind of just ground zero for the urban neighborhood that you wanted to live in. So the demand was already there, and there's already a big support structure around that. The market now is at the point where I think people can see that, hey, this is going to happen. It's going to continue to happen, for instance, around Pearl. So you don't have to have an existing neighborhood that is completely surrounding your project. You can be on the fringe or even slightly outside the fringe of what's considered a nice neighborhood because everybody knows that it's coming. So people are a lot more comfortable with the idea of moving into a conversion or a new construction that today the immediate surroundings may not quite be there, and the support structure, restaurants and that sort of thing may not quite be there. Because everybody knows that it's starting to come, and they've got that confidence level. So then the deal is just if you find a building that has some character to it and some qualities that are something that are worth preserving, and in most cases, 9 times out of 10, I feel most buildings are worth preserving and have some character that you just cannot capture with new construction. It's an opportunity to do the conversion. And then on the infill side, we're at the point now that there's just so much demand that there aren't enough homes in the historic districts and in and around downtown to meet that demand. And there's some attractive qualities to new construction, maintenance-wise, et cetera. An old home is really, in a lot of ways, kind of a hobby. Because there's so much maintenance and upkeep and that sort of thing that's involved, you really have to love it and want to do it. But there's a lot of people who are retired who just don't want that. And so that's where the new construction comes in, and that's what is very attractive about that.
Now, the Southtown area, which is close there, is really booming.
Right.
What made that Southtown area just take off?
It's the 30-year overnight success.
Okay.
This is what that is.
And that's what I like to hear. And then share a little bit about that if you would.
Yeah. I think it was what happened was you get 1 or 2 good restaurants that really start to come into an area, and there's always been a strong demand down there for people who kind of knew about the neighborhood and knew what was going on. We got, and when I say a 30-year overnight success, it really was that. There's a lot of people that lived in the neighborhood that were involved on the Southtown Main Street Alliance program, King William Association, that really pushed and did a lot of volunteer work over decades to get it to the point that people finally recognized, outside of King William, people recognized what was going on downtown and what was starting to happen. To me, the biggest difference for San Antonio has been the Pearl development. And what's been nice about Pearl is it's so big and it's so high profile that everybody knows about it. And because everybody knows about Pearl, anybody who's coming to town, relocating to town, asking about living downtown or an urban location, you can't ignore the fact that Pearl exists. You have to show them Pearl. And when you have to show them Pearl, that means that you have to show them Southtown, King William, Monte Vista, the other local neighborhoods. And for better or worse, San Antonio has always been a suburban-oriented city, and the realtors, therefore, have been suburban-oriented. So for a long time, King William wasn't redlined, but if you were to ask, well, what can I see downtown, the answer was nothing really. You need to go to Stone Oak, or let me show you the medical center, or the Dominion.
Well, let's hold those thoughts, because this is really good stuff, and I like this. But we're going to take a quick break. So you're listening to Real Estate Radio San Antonio with Carla and Stan Hester, and we're going to be back in just a couple minutes with Steve Yndo, and he's going to bring some more information about the downtown area and the Pearl and the King Williams and a plethora of knowledge on that area. We'll see you just back in a couple of moments.